So we are joined by Randi Bushell from Mary, who has this brilliant platform for designing events, mocking up events. And really the coolest thing about it, I think, is being able to sell like the vision of the event to the client who's just like trying to picture this in their head, how all of this works. And Mark brought me in to put together some education sessions for you in case we haven't met. I'm Heidi Thompson. My business is called Evolve Your Wedding Business, and I help wedding professionals follow a simple roadmap to book more of the weddings that they want to be booking, as well as build a business that doesn't like eat their life whole because they're working, 80, 90-hour weeks. So what we wanted to get into today, and the reason why I reached out to Randi about this, is this shift that we're seeing in the industry to where Gen Z is going to become our primary demographic very quickly. And there are some really important shifts that we all need to be aware of in order to be able to turn more of our leads into sales, in order to be able to service these clients. So with that, Randi, allow me to hand it over to you. And then as Randi is teaching today, if you have questions, drop them in the chat. I'll be keeping track. And then we'll come back at the end and I'll make sure all of your questions get answered. So Randi, I'll let you take it away.
Perfect. Alrighty. Well, nice to meet you guys. So as Heidi mentioned, I am the founder of Mary, which is a 3D visualization platform for the events industry. And so, just to give you some quick background, when I started this journey, I actually spent the first 10 years of my career in e-commerce. So I'm not an event pro. I always joke that I've planned exactly one event in my life, which was my own wedding. And my own wedding is when I really had this light bulb moment where, I was struggling to make the decisions to design my event, right? People were asking me, well, what do you want? And I was like, I don't know, help. And so I found myself trying to cobble together what it would look like in PowerPoint, which I'm sure many of you do today. And so I remember Googling like brick wall because my wedding venue was a loft. And so I put a brick wall on a PowerPoint slide, and then I Googled like gray velvet linen because we were doing different textured grays. And then I grabbed some flowers from Pinterest and I was like arranging this whole thing in PowerPoint. And, first of all, it took me hours and I was like, this is asinine. Second of all, cool, I put together this beautiful rendering, but I didn't know how to actually bring it to life. Where do I get these linens, right? Will this actually look good in the space? How will this fit, right? How do I make a floor plan out of this? So all of these things kind of combined led to my frustration. And I was like, okay, I feel like, someone should build a product to do this that ultimately helps you as the event professional help your client bring kind of their inspiration to life in the form of an interactive 3D model. So that's kind of how I started. Now, when you start a business, as all of you know, as business owners, you need to understand your customer. And so I am a millennial, but I obviously did a ton of research on what are up and coming, technologies and how does that correspond to a lot of the consumer expectations that we are seeing and will see for the generational shift that is Gen Z. And so the number one thing that came to mind and came up out of all of this research was the instant gratification that Gen Z expects. And so that's really what we built Mary around, was how do you in real time help your client bring this vision to life? And so what I'm honestly going to do, Heidi, is kind of walk through Mary and explain how we do that. And then what I'll loop back around to is just some key learnings from a study around Gen Z about how you can kind of tackle that instant gratification and apply it to your own businesses. Sound good?
Sounds good. Yeah. That instant gratification piece is really important. And you definitely see it. I mean, you being in the tech space, you see it in so many different areas, even like, when you order a pizza, when you order food from places, like you are given an up-to-date location for everything. And it's just what people have come to expect. We've come
Yeah.
to expect like so much instant knowledge, so much instant gratification.
And I think that that's known, right? Like we all know that. But what's interesting about the industry we operate in is it's like the antithesis of instant gratification
Yep.
because it's a 12-month planning cycle. So sure, like I understand that consumers today want instant gratification, but what does that even mean for an event that you're planning 12 months out? So it's a really interesting problem to solve. Okay. So for those of you who are not familiar with Mary, I kind of just described it, but what we allow you to do is help your client understand what their event is going to look like within the context of their venue, as well as the context of the vision that they're bringing to life as it relates to furniture, linens, lighting, florals, decor, etc. And so where your journey starts on Mary is the venue. So Heidi, I don't know on this call kind of the rough breakdown of venue managers and owners versus, planners and other types of event professionals.
Yeah, actually, why don't you guys let us know in the checks? I know we have a lot of venues here. I know we have bridal shops, but let us know, what type of business do you run? Because that'll give us some ability to be more specific.
Yeah. So let us know. Oh, here's the chat. All right. So we got some bridal shops, venues. All right. Well, bridal shops, hopefully this is, still of interest to you as I kind of relate what we do to the broader theme of Gen Z. But for venues and rentals and caterers and planners, also kind of the tech here will, of course, resonate. So as you need to start your journey on helping your client understand what their event could look like 12 months down the road and give them some instant gratification, you start with the venue. And so on Mary, we have a catalog of 3D venues all over the world. Actually, the last time I checked, it was 64 countries. And you can also build your own venue or have a tented event. You can also ask that we add a venue for you if we do not happen to have it today. And so, we will work with you to bring that venue to life. We have a team of 3D artists who create the venue for you. Now, once that venue is selected as part of this event, you move on to what we call the vision board. And this is that horrible PowerPoint that I created when I was a bride. And I needed to understand what my linen would look like with the chairs, etc. And so we created a catalog of, I'm not exaggerating, 75,000 pieces of inventory that span all of these, categories that you guys all interact with on a daily basis as part of your job. Now, this inventory comes from real rental companies in the industry, whether it be regional or national. And within the vision board, you can simply, search for an item that you want, akin to how you would use any other e-commerce site, filter for items, but it becomes this really fun kind of drag and drop environment so that you can, select from chairs, tables, linens, etc. Now, the fun part comes to the design aspect of this when you pull together the venue and those items that you had added to your board in either a 2D or 3D design. Now, this is where in all of our research, your Gen Z customers start to lose their mind because as Heidi mentioned, they don't know a world without instant gratification. There's all those videos that I feel like went viral last year when you ask someone in Gen Z, how do you do like a hand gesture for a phone? We all go like this. I don't know if you guys have seen this, right? We go like this, but they go like this because they don't know life before the iPhone. So they just think about like a flat phone. And so to them, the concept of having to, go see a space multiple times, just getting like a stencil drawing, waiting 3 to 6 months in between these things is kind of not within their repertoire. And so you being able to bring this vision to life for them, helping them through it and giving them the tools that they need to succeed on their own is ultimately what they expect from you and how you will stand out. So while this just took a second to load up, What I will show you, let me just delete these for a quick sec, is now how your couples can use this to bring their vision to life. Now, I think what's really, really interesting in the events industry is if you think about even yourself, but definitely a Gen Z couple, when they're shopping online, they're shopping for a specific item. Maybe it's, a core consumable like paper towels, maybe it's clothing, maybe it's something for their apartment, but you find what you're looking for, you add it to cart and you buy it. It's pretty straightforward, right? When you're buying an event, there are so many different people and things that are wrapped up into that one purchase that you have to really lay that out for them. And they don't know what they don't know, but it's a lot easier to show them versus tell them. And so that's exactly what we've built our technology around, is how can we help you show your clients what they need instead of, trying to tell them. So our set of tools over here does exactly that. Your client doesn't necessarily know how many people fit at a table, right? What even size tables are options. They maybe don't know what it would look like as a, tented event versus a non-tented event. So for example, when you come into our tables tool, we've built this tablescape designer where you can now see, remember those linens we put on our vision board? You can show your client, this is what your different options are going to look like. So that PowerPoint slide that was just like a flat, static rendering now becomes interactive for them, and you're giving them the ability to make decisions on their own. And now you can show them, here's the inventory that your venue might provide, but if you want to spend an additional $6 a chair, here's what that will look like. And oh, by the way, let's invite your florist to collaborate with us on this event, and we can drop in images from the sample meeting. So not only are you now showing them, but you are inviting other people to collaborate with them on this presentation. And that becomes important in, how I bring this back to key themes around Gen Z. So now that you've created this table for them, you can actually use our drag and drop tool to fill up your space. And now I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with like floor planning tools. And where we come into play is you can, of course, floor plan your heart out as you normally do, but now you can show your client all of these amazing details coming to life in this collaborative environment, like I mentioned, with, the caterer and the florist, etc. Heidi, I'm going to pause there. Do you have anything that you want me to touch on before I keep going?
I think we're good right now.
Alrighty.
And I really like this because I know something that is that I've seen in multiple studies, it's very important with Gen Z, is like open access to information and not the, well, I don't know, it depends, which we all know, like there's a reason for that, but it frustrates them. I'm a millennial and it frustrates me. And this really allows you to get so much more information to actually see like how could this be put together, as opposed to, like you said, just this idea in your head and then you're trying to like cobble it together in a PowerPoint slide. It's kind of a mess.
Correct. It's not gonna fly with them. So we've given you the tools to effectively create their exact event for them, along a set of parameters of, well, what venue is it at? How many people are you having? What is your budget? And by the way, what I'm showing you here is we've also built in kind of spatial constraints where if things are too close together or you're doing something you're not allowed to do, we yell at you. Okay. So now if you think about it, your client can understand what their layout is going to look like. And then going back to Heidi's point of, well, they also want real-time access to information and they want to take a part in this. Well, guess what? You can now invite them to the event and give them access to seat people at tables. So where you come in is, I'm going to design your event for you and I'm going to make your layout. But guess what? You're now going to come in here and say, my family is going to sit at table 1 and Emily is going to sit at table 2. And I can control exactly who's sitting next to who, because this is, where I want people to sit. And your client feels like they are taking a part in this, which is very important to them, but you have given them the tools and the right access levels to kind of work within a framework that you've created for them.
That's the real difference here, is you're working within a framework and not a blank slate. I think, especially as with every generation, I feel like this kind of started with Gen X, but a lot of people have never been to the event that they want to create. So they're like, I don't know how to tell you what I want.
Do you know the study about jam in a grocery store?
Yes, this is a good one.
So it's paradox of choice, right? So more choices does not equal better. And so there was a study done about, what is the maximum number of, I don't know why they chose jam, but the category was jam on a grocery store shelf. And basically how many choices was too many choices that people just walked away from the shelf and didn't make a purchase. And I think that that's the most important role for you to play in the planning process for your client, is limiting a number of options for them and then letting them make the final decision. So for example, like taking that very literally, okay, client, you've told me your budget, you've told me kind of what you're looking for. Here are 4 linens that I think you should choose from, pick the one that you like. And so giving them options in a structured way helps them make decisions, and it also makes them feel like they're in control, but really you aren't in control.
Yeah, and interestingly, I think this could absolutely apply to bridal shops too. You are hand selecting pieces for them based on what they've told you. The interesting thing that happens there is not only are you providing, a more aligned experience for the generation, but it is a higher touch, like a better feeling, more like this person is looking out for me and doing these things for me kind of experience.
Yes. I really think that is best summarized as they're looking to you for your expertise, but they want to make decisions. So you stringing them along through giving them access to tools, technology, and information at the right time. You are kind of that filter, but then you're giving them the information that they need to ultimately make a decision. All right, can I keep going?
Go for it.
All righty. So like I mentioned, we've kind of built this roadmap for you, where based on the type of item that you need to show your client, we have, set tools. So I already showed you the tables tool. The chairs tool is how you can, change the template of how chairs are laid out. You can obviously change, the spacing between chairs, super important for the venues on the call. We've also added tools like pipe and drape and staging. So if you need to add a stage to your space, well, the same way that you design a table with a linen and a napkin and chargers and china, well, staging, you might want a skirt and you might need to change the height of the stage as well as the length and width of the stage. And then the same way that your tables were drag and drop, you can drag and drop everything. Now, here's what's cool. I'm going to give you kind of a peek behind the curtain. As you're designing this event, remember back to like my consumer desire, what we're doing is we're saying, this is exactly everything that you placed in this design and how many you need of them. So we've now done a lot of the heavy lifting for you of, great, I made this layout. Now I need to go type up a rental order, or now I need to send my client an itemized list of everything that's in here. We've pulled together the inspirational aspects of, okay, client, this is what you generally want. Let me translate that into a floor plan to make sure it logistically works, as well as, an order and then a budgeted line item for you to make sure we can actually bring this into this space. Same thing goes with tenting. Tenting is obviously a huge budget line item. And so if somebody needs to add a tent, we have, pre-rendered frame tents, sailcloth tents, marquee tents, you name it. You can change the different pole locations. And then again, we let you go down to like the individual, leg drape and light levels of, am I adding chandeliers? Am I bringing in liners? Because those are the decisions that you need to present to your client. And we've made it really easy and fun for you to do so. Now, as you add things to your space, we also make it really easy for you to obviously position them the right way. and automatically add them into that shopping cart for you to view. Now, you guys have probably seen me play around with all these different angles. So for my venues on the call, our job at Mary is to create a venue model for you that showcases your venue in the best light so that you can help your clients understand event flow, right? So your ceremony is in this space, your cocktails are in this space, your reception is in this space, here's how we would lay that out. Or if you do a full space rent out, here's what it would look like versus if you just rent this space. So as we onboard each venue, we make sure that not only the venue looks like what you want it to look like aesthetically, but it is set up in a way that helps you explain to the client what their event flow is, back to giving them access to tools and information that they need to make their decisions. Now, I've alluded to this many, many times already, but what your clients want, what Gen Z wants, is access to information at the right time in the process. And so the way that we see people using Mary often is the planner or the venue, for that matter, will create like a shell of a layout, right? Here's generally how I'm going to lay out the space with, this size tables. And then you invite the client, and the client kind of fills in the gaps, right? You give them options for the linens and the chairs and whatnot. They fill in the gaps. And so then you, as the venue or the planner, is kind of like the master owner of this event. You can invite your client at whatever time you want, give them whatever access level you want to give them, and then you can even revoke access at a certain point. So as you guys are thinking about what tools you have in your tech stack, you should kind of map out, what does my client do at month 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, etc., prior to their event date? When am I inviting them to what? To make them kind of get that sense of control that we know that they so yearn for. Now, you might not want to invite your client because you might feel like it overwhelms them, right? Maybe this is too much for them, or maybe you're like, I don't know, I would never want to give someone access to this. Plenty of people feel that way. So we've also given you a few other options here that will maybe make A, you feel more comfortable, but B, things that we have tested and tried and true methods that your clients love. So first and foremost, who doesn't love a PDF that's just an output of the examples that you've put together for them? So I'll show you what that looks like. But the main thing that I want to show you here is what we call a fly-through link. And I'm told that this looks choppy over Zoom. I promise it's not choppy in real life. Your client is busy. Your client wants kind of the power of, the tech that we're talking about here. And so what this video does is it makes them feel like they are doing a walkthrough of their space. But you can see that we stripped out pretty much every action that you could take. So they can't add things, they can't remove things, they can't delete things. So this is how you can work with them, is you maintain control. They can't change what you did. You are the professional, but they feel like they have gained access to something, at the right moment in time, and they can give you feedback on it. Last but not least, I'm sure that, you guys have client portals, whatever that means to you. What we believe in is, like I said, giving clients access to the information that you think will make the most sense to them. Maybe some client just wants that video. Maybe some client wants to get in here and dig deep. Which, while this loads, just a anecdote there. I was on the Betches Brides podcast a few weeks ago, if those of you are familiar with that. It's like a media company that's consumer focused, and 800 brides created accounts on Mary in one day. Okay. 800. Now, the way that it works on Mary is you can create one event for free. So, if you are a bride and you're creating, you're just one wedding, it's free and whatever. We were inundated on those few days of people who, just loved what we were doing. But again, they're not professionals. So we found ourselves not only having to educate them on the software, but having to educate them on how you plan an event, which, by the way, is not our job, and why we don't focus on that segment. So that brings me to kind of what I would recommend you doing with your clients, is giving them access to this client dashboard. And so this dashboard is great for a few reasons. First and foremost, it's brandable for you. So this is our Mary logo, but it would be your logo. Okay, it would be whatever banner you want here. You can add whatever information you want here. And then the second thing, forgive my demo account, which clearly has a bajillion versions on it. And I don't even know which version we were in. So just bear with me. Not this one, but you get the point. What's great is we automatically populate every version that you've created for this client. So if you've created a version for your client of 100 guests versus 120 guests, or this layout versus this layout, you see, different 3D images. And you can choose, whichever one you want. Maybe you want to show them the interior of the tent instead of the inside. You get your top-down image, you get your 2D. So all of the basics of showing your client, what is a basic layout, plus the more inspirational aspects of, what is the actual design going to look like, your tablescapes, your inventory, and a link to that walkthrough video. So in one place, your client gets access to everything. Now, the most important part of this, we know that your clients are on the go. And so we've built this page to be mobile optimized. Now, I wish that I could sit here and tell you that our 3D application is mobile optimized, but unfortunately your phone just is not powerful to run kind of the graphics that we do. But we've built a client dashboard that is mobile optimized so that your clients can view all of what you put together for them on their phone, on the go, very easily. Heidi, I'm going to pause.
Yeah. Do you see people using this as part of their proposal or their sales process?
Yes.
Because I can see that being extremely powerful.
Yeah. So what we have heard from a lot of I'll start on the planner side and then I'll answer that on the venue side. So on the planner side, we have heard time and time again, I just won a bid, or I won a client because I included a rendering in my proposal. And when I dug into that, what became clear to me is the clients felt like you understood them. Nobody wants to enter into, like I said, a 12-month contract and not be sure if you're going to be on the same page. That happens all the time, right? So if you can show them that you get what they want by creating a rendering on Mary that took you 10 to 15 minutes, we've heard time and time again that planners win business that way. Additionally, we hear that planners create like another tier that includes like design services, and this is a way to do that. On the venue side, a few things here. One, when someone comes to visit your venue, it's either empty or set up for another event, right? That's just the name of the game. And so what a lot of our venues do is create templates on Mary so that when you're walking clients through the space, you can say, here's how we would set up this room for, this guest count or this type of an event, and boom, 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 it all populates, and you can show them how that space would be set up for their event. And then kind of on the opposite end of that, once the client books, then you kind of can just assign that template to their account. And then you can either, edit it for them or just invite them and let them do it themselves.
I love that. Yeah. I mean, if I had a bunch of people I was talking to and someone presented me with that, I'm going with that person for sure.
Yeah. Any other questions, Heidi?
Not at the moment.
Okay, I'm just pulling up presentation that I want to pull up for everyone.
So some key themes here being transparency, instant gratification, customization. I think these are really important to think about in like every facet of your business. How are you weaving those in?
Found what I was looking for. And you set me up perfectly for that.
Oh, perfect.
Thank you. Okay. So I told you guys I was kind of going to like loop this back around. So this was a study done, I believe it was out of Princeton, a year or two ago. And just, to read the quote is, for Gen Zers, the norm they experienced as children was a world that operated at speed, scale, and scope. They developed an early facility with powerful digital tools that allowed them to be self-reliant as well as collaborative. So you heard me say that probably 20 times in my demo. They want to do things on their own, but they want, you to include other people in that decision-making framework. Similarly, because they could learn about people and cultures throughout the globe from an early age, they developed a greater appreciation for diversity and the importance of finding their own unique identities. So, zooming out a bit, what that looks like is they're hiring you to be that powerful source of information, and they expect you to provide them with powerful digital tools. But those tools should not just do your job for you. It should empower them to play a part in the process because they want to feel in control. They want to be self-reliant, and things should be on their terms. And all of this really just leads to them wanting to plan an event that feels unique and authentic to themselves. And the reason why I end there is because I actually don't think people realize this. But we say that they grew up with tech. But when you trace back to kind of how we got to where we are today, I don't think most people realize that Instagram and Pinterest were born in the same year. And that was 2010. Yeah, same exact year both of those came out. And so, when we as millennials were growing up on technology, that was like cutting edge for us, right? Like, wow, we now have access to this repository of inspirational content. And that was a tool that you could use with your clients to make sure you're on the same page, right? It's sometimes hard to communicate a vision in words, but it's a lot easier when somebody is like, I made a Pinterest board, this is what I'm going for, right? And that's still a really powerful tool. But because that is not cutting edge to younger consumers, because it's just been around, the evolution of that is, I like this, but, right, how do I make this unique to me? And so they don't want to just emulate a Pinterest board. They don't want to put together a board and say, bring this to life. They want to deconstruct that board. And so this is just, something that I've put together that, breaks down where we were. So, the inspired consumer, the Pinterest world that we've lived in for the past 13 years to where we are now, which is the innovative consumer. Now, a lot of times when I say that, people roll their eyes because we all know that there's only so many combinations of things that you can do, and everybody thinks that you're super unique, but they're all based on like the same trend cycle, right? Which is fair. But the fact of the matter is that the technology that our clients are using has evolved, and we need to evolve with that. And the good news there is technology like Mary, as well as other, things exist to help you tackle that deconstruction part. So, start with, inspiration. That's great. It's one tool in your toolbox, but to get to, the point where people feel like you have that powerful digital tool arsenal, and you're empowering them to be self-reliant, it needs to ultimately be deconstructed so that they can paint the picture of their own vision.
That's very interesting. And it makes a lot of sense. It's like, no, just give me the Legos. I want to build my own thing, the way I want to do it.
Exactly. And so it's almost like starting with what they want in a more inspirational way, but then breaking that down quite literally into the chair and the, floral recipe and whatever, to then bring that back up to the ultimate vision that, meets their needs and feels authentic to them.
Yeah. And I think so often we've gotten caught up in this like gatekeepy way of like, I don't want to give away too much information. But what we're seeing more and more is Gen Z wanting kind of a partner, really. Like, can I have a conversation with you? Can I ask you questions and you tell me what I need to know? And maybe things I didn't realize I needed to know, as opposed to being treated like a customer. Because I've seen time and time again, Gen Z can smell salesiness from like a mile away. So the more consultative conversational approach of like, okay, what are you looking for? Like, how can I help you find the thing or create the thing or, deconstruct and reconstruct the thing that is going to fit what you want? And I think that's a fundamental mindset and perspective shift.
And I think that it's just been an evolution, right? I remember being younger in my career and like cringing hearing executives talk about like how to reach millennials. And they were treating us like we were this like species or like these aliens that like were totally new, and how we operated and worked was like so different than generations before us. And I think when you look at it, like it's really a natural evolution that consumer behavior follows technology trends. And so as tech has enabled us at a very young age to be self-reliant. Of course, as Gen Z has grown up and had more power of wallet share, they're going to expect that those same shifts happen to people that they hire for whatever aspect of their life.
I'm totally putting you on the spot here, so totally fine if you don't have an answer for this, but I was thinking it could be helpful if we could brainstorm ways to bring this collaborative self-reliance into like bridal shops. What would that look like?
Yeah. I mean, definitely don't have an answer off the top of my head, and I would love other people to jump in here. I, definitely don't work with bridal shop owners and managers. Here's what I would say. Planning your wedding is such a special part of your life. And the experiences that you have outside of that oftentimes feel so different than your experience when planning your wedding. So for example, I'm shopping for clothes. I have a very different experience than when I'm shopping for my wedding dress, which in some ways is rightfully so. Your wedding dress is 100 times more expensive than the shirt you're going to go buy, right? But okay, what are things that people now have come to expect in like their traditional retail shopping that they might want to see in their bridal shop experience? So again, I don't know, this isn't my wheelhouse.
I can say a
but
big thing for me that I've seen in fashion brands that are doing particularly well is, and I don't know how complicated it would be to create something like this, but basically allowing you to choose your size or your closest size and see what it looks like on that person.
Yeah, like a try before you buy.
Yeah, or like, what does this look like on a size 8, a size 18, a size 28? Okay, now I understand, like, okay, this is going to look different, and maybe this is for me, maybe this isn't for me. And that really feeds into the wanting and seeking out of diversity.
I think that so much of wedding planning is like tactile, right? Like you have to, you're investing so much money and so much emotional energy and time into this one day or night that you're more willing to like go see things than you otherwise would have, and like a lower risk, lower emotion purchase. But to your point, there's the expectation of, I kind of want to see all of my options, but I can't sit here for 48 hours and try on every dress here. So why can I try on every shade of lipstick, using AR tool, but I can't see what this dress might look like on my body.
Yeah, I think even if you can't go full AR tech with it, I think even something as simple as showing models in different sizes, quite frankly, because even that, based on where the industry is right now, is such a differentiator and allows you to see a respect for diversity, to know, okay, like there are so many people who have walked into bridal shops and been treated terribly because they feel like, they don't look like the perfect bride or whatever. And I think so much of letting them know that that's not how it's going to be, and setting the stage for the actual experience, and that this is actually what we're all about, it can be incredibly helpful. And I would love to know if any of the bridal shops are using different size models in your, whether it's your social media, on your website, if you're using anything like that, because I think that's part of the customization, because we can see like, oh, this is a beautiful dress, but inevitably then it's like, but how's that gonna look on me? Like my shoulders are wide, like how is that gonna work with my proportions?
Yeah, I guess I kind of, not to put it back on you guys, but going back to the quote of like, okay, they want to be self-reliant. They want tools that make them self-reliant, but collaborative. So like, how would you translate that as a bridal shop owner? I don't want to pretend to be an expert where I'm not. I know what the consumer wants, but very
Yeah.
how you guys would translate that.
Yeah, let us know in the chat because this is a very interesting conversation that I think like this innovative approach can apply to any kind of business, much less, any kind of wedding business. But how can you take an approach that allows them to, in a weird way, and not trying to infantilize anybody, but it's like you're kind of building them their sandbox and like, here's your choices. Here's what you can play with. Here's what's going to work for you.
I would imagine, and again, I don't know how you guys run your businesses, but a big part of the shopping experience has always been, okay, I'll bring you a few options to the dressing room. Knowing what I know about Gen Z, they probably wouldn't like that because they feel like you're making too many decisions for them, right? Now, granted, we said like you need to be a filter and give them some options, but they would want to know, how are those decisions being made, right? Like what assumptions are you making and how are you thinking about this? Because maybe I would think about it differently. So kind of bringing them along the ride, if you will.
Yeah, that's interesting. And I can see, even a conversation around like, okay, what parts of your body do you love? Like go tan France with it. What do you love? What do you hate? What do you want to show off? What do you want to maybe not show off so much? And okay, I think this is going to be great for you because of the way, your waist is, blah, 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 blah. That's like a much more tailored experience and it's communicating. It's not just like, here's this dress. Carrie says here, accessories, offering custom options or designers that offer unique colors and adaptations are amazing. I have a client who dyes dresses and she has a whole like dyeable line of dresses and they're blowing up. I think that customization piece is huge. Even small changes to popular lines create a custom experience for brides. My previous clients, Gen Z, loved stores that offered options like this: sleeves, colors, volumes, custom veils. Okay, so like those individual little pieces that you're adding in. I love that. Did that change? I'm curious, has your experience in like how you sell to them changed, or how you bring them into the store changed, or how you share with them this is going to work? Or is it that like they're seeing this and they're just like, ready, let's go?
I can answer that on our side too.
Yeah.
So like I mentioned when I was on that podcast and we had 800 brides create accounts in one day. You know, I hopped on the phone with a bunch of them just to get some feedback. And I think somewhere between 75 and 80% of them, without being prompted, told me it feels like I'm playing The Sims, but I'm planning my wedding.
I love
And from a technical perspective, that's intentional. Like it's literally built on the same technology. And so for them, they wanted it to feel fun, right? And it did. And they felt like we were giving them, for lack of a better term, like a game to play in that emulated real life. And they were able to kind of see themselves in that world. And so for us, again, we don't sell to them. They get it for free. So we're not really focused on them. And the main reason why that even exists is so that you as the planner can invite them. But for them, they want to be sold like a level of independence, right? Like just give me access to it and I'm going to build what I want. Whereas when we're working with more of the professional side of the industry, it's a lot more about a service that we can help provide to you. So there's just a very stark difference in them taking the tech and running with it because they want to build something independently with kind of the structure that we've laid out, versus how we kind of work with the professional and inherently older side of the world.
That is really interesting. And that's really interesting that you heard from so many people that it felt like playing The Sims, because that's a very different experience than I'm shopping for a venue, like, or I'm laying out my wedding. Like, those things sound like work, and playing The Sims sounds like fun.
Yeah. There's also, I feel like for the past, God knows how long, been this universally accepted truth that like planning your wedding sucks. And, you know, there's a lot of reasons for that. I can't solve for like family drama or whatever, but I think that this generation, again, and talking to them, they're more into like solving that problem than just like accepting that as a universal truth.
Yeah, I've definitely found that as well. Like, that is unacceptable to me. I'm going to do it in a way that doesn't suck.
Yeah. And by the way, we've seen an uptick. I don't know if you guys have seen this data in the percentage of couples that are booking planners post-pandemic. There's, you know, a lot of reasons for that. But, you know, if you think about a client who is more independent and tech savvy, but they are hiring planners at a higher rate than before, you would almost think that those are in like contrast with each other, but they're not, right? They expect those two to work like harmoniously together.
That's really interesting. And that tells us so much of what we're being sought out for is our expertise, is our, I want to say guidance, but I feel like guidance implies someone being in charge, but it's much more, like I said, of like a partnership situation of like, you're going to help me figure out what is best. And maybe we had someone here who has a band. Maybe I didn't take the older people in my family into consideration, and you're going to help me figure that out and like get grandma on the dance floor, you know, all of these different pieces. I think we can look at everything in our business through that lens. And I think that's really helpful. Does anybody have any questions for Randi? I want to make sure you get those answered.
Talk to a lot of Gen Zers, so I'm happy to.
What are you seeing them complain about?
So the biggest thing is lack of transparency. Now you can define that in a lot of ways, and some of that is structural in nature to this industry. So, you know, not just putting a price on your website, right? Not just putting your availability on your website. Like, there's a reason for that, right? But that's the number one thing that we hear all the time. And it's almost the number one driver of like, why is this so hard? Why can't I just get, to your point earlier, like the information that I need when I need it? So that's the number one thing. The number two thing is response time, which is more in our control. Although everyone's busy. So there's, you know, a lot that you can do with that. But, you know, lack of transparency and response time are every single time we survey Gen Z, the two things that frustrate them the most.
Yeah. And I think when people think about response time, they're thinking about, okay, I have to get back instantly. But when you look at the industry on the whole, I mean, there are people that don't get back to people for like a week longer. I know people who have like shopped a bunch of different wedding vendors, and it's kind of scary how long some people are letting people just like sit there and wait and dangle. And I think, you know, some of it can be mitigated by, you know, if you're not available after certain, you know, time. I am all for boundaries, but give me an autoresponder that tells me when I will hear from you. You know, tell me when my pizza's gonna be here, or I'm gonna be like, did the order go through? I don't even know. So I think if you can mitigate some of that anxiety of, okay, they got my email, they're going to get back to me tomorrow between this time and this time. And maybe if you have something that they can do now, linking to it in there. So I think that can be really helpful in making sure that you're actually getting back to them in a timely fashion.
Yeah. And we actually asked them kind of what their average response time they're seeing and what their expectation would be. And I don't want to misquote, but what is standing out in my head is I think their average response time that they said was 8 days. Yeah.
Jesus.
And their
So
expectation is within 24 hours. Yeah.
oh my God. Yeah, I think it doesn't have to be within 2 minutes. Like within 24 hours, just respond back. And there are different ways to streamline that. But oh my God, 8 days. Yeah. I mean, it's no wonder they didn't book at that point.
Yeah. And I think it's those two things combined with like, okay, I can't get the information that I need from your website and you're also not getting back to me. And that's honestly why they just want the tools, because they're like, okay, I'll just do it myself, right? But then where they struggle with that is, well, I've only done this one time, so I don't totally know what I need. And so
Yeah.
there is this balance of give me the tools so I can feel responsible and like an active participant, but I need someone to like guide me and give me the right framework.
Do you feel like part of that tool set could be something as simple as like an availability calendar?
Listen, it's what people want, but I've also talked to so many venues and everybody has really good reasons for not having that.
I
Um,
understand that. Yeah.
but it's, that's what every customer wants. And this, by the way, isn't even just, for weddings, for like corporate event planning too. All anybody wants is real-time availability information.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you go to book a flight and it's like, I don't know if there's a flight at that time. We'll tell you when
Right,
we get
right,
back to
right.
you.
Call one of our travel agents. Yeah.
Yeah. Fantastic. Well, nobody has any questions at this point in time. If anything comes up or if they want to check out Mary for themselves, where should they go? How can they contact you?
Email me, Randy@bmary.com. I'll put it in the chat. And I will point you in the right direction.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Thank you all for joining us. I hope this has given you some ideas about some directions you can go in to better cater to Gen Z. Jaylee says, thank you. Learn lots. So happy to hear that. And would love to hear, going forward, how did you implement this? What did you do? What did you change? What brilliant idea did you have that you ran with? Because I mean, that's what happened to Randy one day and now she owns a software company. So here we are. Thank you
Well,
guys.
thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining. We will have this recording up for you very soon so you can refer back to. And you can always reach out to Randi, Randi, at bmary.com. I will see you guys next time. Thanks so much for joining us. Bye, everybody.